Mike, if you had any questions for Beth or vice versa, you could also do that as well.
Sure. So, Dr. McGraw, if I could, there's one thing that we in Center County have been following, and the last thing we'd want is for us to be in the newspaper as some other states have been. So in Wisconsin, there were some reports of individuals who worked on Election Day or voted on Election Day in person contracting COVID-19, and we want to be very sensitive to that. I don't know if there's anything that other states have done or said, like you said, that poll workers had said we could have done differently, or just in general things that we could be doing better. We're always interested in hearing that, but I didn't know if you had heard anything about any recommendations Wisconsin had given or other states had given about how we can improve voting for other states as well.
No, I mean, it sounds like plans are in place to do all the right things. As long as you've got some, I'd have taped out floor markings to keep people spaced. I mean, I know we're all doing that at the grocery store now, you're queuing up outside on, marks on the ground, and hopefully having places for people to sit down who can't stand in those long queues. So that's useful. Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I would say, it'd be great if there was a way that we could tell when polling places weren't very busy. I mean, I don't know if there's some way we could get that information out on social media. When is a good time to go if you'd prefer it to be a bit quieter, particularly if we're consolidating some of these, polling centers. So is there a way to sort of manage traffic across them? And I don't know if we can do that with, social media or, other sort of communication devices. And I know not everyone is on those, but even if there's some guidance about how we know when people tend to vote, when are the quieter times, if you were an older person or someone who was at higher risk and you had not done a plan to do mail-in ballot, what time of day should you turn up there based on past sort of voting behaviors for people. I know it's trickier because we're sort of in a changed society. So, 10 a.m. might not, pre-COVID might be different to 10 a.m. post-COVID if we got more people working from home or whatever. So it might be interesting to look into when peak voting times were during COVID in some of these other states. And maybe you could get that information out to some of the more at-risk groups. That would be my advice.
That's a great point. And typically the joke has been before work and after work and lunchtime. So that's sort of 7, 8. So when polls open until about 8, 9 o'clock is typically considered busy. And the 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock over lunch is considered busy. And then 5 to 6 to 5 to 6:30 is typically busy. But you're absolutely right. In a COVID world, that may change due to the fact that we're not having as many individuals that are having to, go before work, or there's a lot of telework still occurring here in Center County. So that'll be interesting to see. I would still think that 10 a.m., a good time to vote, slow times would be 10 a.m., 2 to 4 would probably be a good time. And then 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. are typically, after 7, it really slows down. I think those are times that I think even with COVID-19, those would still probably be beneficial times. And the challenge is with so typically campaigns would take it upon themselves to have somebody in each polling location, or the high traffic ones at least, to report back to let's say AVA or headquarters somewhere to say, precinct 68 is really slow. We're seeing a lot of people turn out at 57. Let's make sure, let's let people know, or we're having long lines. I still think that's going to occur. I still think social media is going to let us know where the larger turnouts are going to occur. The one thing that we're able to do at the county, and it's a data point that we didn't have before, is let's say we have 1,000 people that can vote on Election Day, but we know that 400 of them have already submitted their absentee or mail-in ballots. So in effect, there's only 600 people at maximum that can turn out. And if we know the turnout has only been about 50%, it'd be safe to say that we might only see 100 to 200 people there, when in reality, we typically would see 500 or 600 there. So I think there's going to be a few places where we're going to know that we're going to see as many or more votes at the end of the election totaling, but we're actually not going to see as many people there to vote. And I think there's a flip side on that, where actually in some precincts, we may see the same amount or a little less than typical that comes out to election day, just because some of the people in that community, in that precinct, are opting not to vote by mail. And then based on that, if we're seeing a larger precinct, we've talked about this, a larger precinct that has not had as many vote by mail ballots come in, we're actually going to give them more poll workers and make sure that they're staffed at a level that they can handle the day of the election. But no, I think as well as if social media on election day, we typically have somebody in our elections office that's monitoring social media and just seeing, they'll kind of follow news sites and we'll all kind of follow our Twitter feeds and Facebook feeds to see what precincts are busy, and then let them know, hey, do they need more workers there? Hey, do they need X, Y, or Z? But yeah, you make some really, really good points. So I'll have to take that